Today I thought I would show you how I do the backgrounds to the underwater world scenes that I do. These are two recent paintings that I did, and I have the videos of these here on YouTube. They'll be up here on the top of the screen. And this one. So the backgrounds are made with watercolor. And I will show you how I do that. I'm going to show you how I doodle on it. I'll tell you all about the thought processes that I use and the supplies that I use. Everything that I do step by step that goes into these. This will be a more in-depth tutorial video. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is get out my watercolor paper. Now, there's differences between hot press and cold press. These were both done, no, this one is cold press, and this one was done on hot press. And I will show you on hot press paper today. I find that a technique that I use to make some of these little bubbles and things works. It makes the bubbles much bigger on the hot press paper than on the cold press. And different papers will give different results. I'll talk about that when I get there. So the paper I'm going to use today is Meeden watercolor paper. It's 100% cotton. I like this paper because it's 100% cotton and it is a good price point. I will have all the supplies that I use linked in the description and linked in the little YouTube shopping tab that you'll see at the bottom left of the screen. That'll help you find, if you're looking for a particular item, find where I got it and where you could get it. So, I don't know if there are people out there that don't realize this is a watercolor block. All the papers are glued together. So you literally could just paint right on the block and the paper will not, well, it'll buckle a little bit if you use a lot of water, but it will shrink right back down. You won't have to tape it. I'm not going to do that because I find it makes a big mess, and then, I don't know, for what I do, I just want to separate it out and I'll tape it. It won't be the best results when I tape it, but I just deal with it. So what I'm going to do is right here, there is, you can't see it, but there is an area about 2 inches wide that does not have glue. Can you kind of see that? So what I'll do is I'll take a palette knife or a kitchen knife or whatever you have, and I'll stick it in between the top sheet and the ones below. And then I will go and separate it all the way around and just separate out. I like the Meeden blocks because the glue that they use on the sides to hold it nice together is white, or kind of a milky white. My favorite brand of paper is actually Arches, and they use a black border, which irritates me. It's my favorite paper. It performs the best, but it irritates me that this little edge here is black. So I'm just going to go along and peel off. You don't have to. Sometimes it just comes right off, but I found with this one, I just kind of have to pull it a little bit. Yeah, that wasn't hard. Okay, so now I'm going to tape the paper down. I'm going to put a little 1/4 inch border all the way around. So what I usually do is I usually get out my ruler and I mark just a 1/4 inch so I can have a relatively similar border all the way around. So when I go to finish it, the white edge is pretty similar. Now, the technique that I'm using to make some of the texture does bleed underneath the tape and that's okay. I usually cut it off anyway. So put that, I use this, I'm sorry, Frog painter's tape. And I will tape all four corners, all four sides down. And then again, we will do the 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, 1/4 inch. And you can do whatever size you want. Because it's a small paper, I'll do a 1/4 inch marking. 1/4 inch border all the way around. Okay, and more tape. And one more piece of tape. And like I said, you could leave it on the block if you have blocked paper, or you could do this, or if you don't have blocked paper, you can do this to help it flatten back out again when it dries. Today I'm going to use a little bit more of a greenish color palette. It's kind of my favorite. I love this Currants palette. Our Philosophy Confections. That is the palette, and these are the colors. I'll be using Seaside, Kelp, Algae. I'm looking at my numbers here so I can remember what they are. Turkish Sea, and Ocean. Those are the colors I'm going to use today. All these colors blend really nicely together if you're looking for the oceany kind of greens and blues that all work well together. They mix well together, make other pretty colors. I love the Seaside mixed with the algae. Any of them mixed with the algae are so beautiful. I love this brand. I love how the paint performs. It's really awesome. This is not sponsored. It's just something I really enjoy. Okay, so these will be the colors that you'll be seeing me put on the palette to my right. This plate, it's just a porcelain plate. Love to use little plates for palettes. They're so easy to clean. Everything comes off them, even gouache and acrylic and watercolor. I just rinse them under the sink. Paper towel that I use during the day, I rinse and wipe, and they come right clean again. I got this at Walmart because I live in the boondocks and Walmart is the only store we have around here. First thing I'm going to do is use this Hake 2-inch brush. I like this to wet the paper. I'm just going to dip the brush in some clear water. Get the paper wet. Not too soppy, just damp. And if it dries out, because you're taking your time to get your background on, you can always just go over the section that dried out and add a little more water. Always start with my favorite color. I'm going to use a 22 round brush. I like the Princeton series. Again, all supplies will be below and in the shopping tab on the video itself. Now this Seaside color did mix with the algae sitting next to it in the palette, and that's okay. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to get some on my palette. This color is more true to the Seaside, and this is mixed with the algae. Okay, it doesn't even matter to me if it's all. So I'm just going to go along. If the colors get mixed up, that's okay. Just let them get mixed up. It brings so many little happy accidents that you'll be grateful for later. Now I want to kind of work fast because the technique I want to do works best with wet paper. So I think I'm going to work on this side of the paper, do my technique, and then move back to the other side. Wet it when I go back to the other side. This next color is Ocean 135. I'm just putting random colors on the page, on that paper, in random places. I'm not thinking too much about anything that I'm doing because everything that happens on the paper is a happy accident. So I don't get myself worked up if something doesn't look exactly like I wanted it to look, because I will work with whatever I get later. It's already starting to dry. Let's add some of that algae and add some brightness to this corner. And let's go back and add, let me see, this one is 136, Turkish Sea. Little dabs. Nothing has to be. Sometimes the paint and the wetness of the paper makes the paper buckle a little bit. I also don't get myself upset about that. It will make pretty little pools. Okay, so let's get to the first little technique of adding some texture. So what I have here is isopropyl alcohol. I have 50%. I mean, they sell it up to 99%. This is just what I had, so that's what I'm using. I don't have much left, but get whatever you can find. I'll just put it in a little cup. That's the last of my stash. Okay, then we're gonna take just a regular brush and dip it in, and I'm just gonna add circles. I like to also do it off the edge. Once the paint dries, these circles won't work. It's similar to if I added water, and I'll show you that. If I add water to the paper, it's similar to that. This is straight water, but these leave, the water doesn't leave a color or a lack of color. This alcohol does this fun little thing to the paint. It adds like this ghosty kind of thing. And I really like that. Now see how I'm getting this pool in the center? Sometimes when I get that, I take my alcohol and I add some dots. It likes to push paint to the side. See, it's pushing that inward. And then the other thing you can do, I'll put the alcohol to the side, I don't want to spill what little bit I have left, is you can use one of these spatter brushes, dip it in the alcohol, and it gives more of a fine mist of these little circles, resist areas. Okay, and the other thing is if you don't like what's happening with that center, take a little tissue and you can dab out some of the water. also take the tissue and do some interesting effects by dabbing out some of the paint. Whatever floats your boat. Now, I actually want to add a little bit of spatter to that with some color that I have. So let's just get some of this dark blue. Let me see what that one was. Ocean. And I'm just going to make it a little more soupy. Got more of that off the paper than I did on the paper. Okay, let's do this side now. And because I'm sure, yep, it's dry. Let's add some water. My water is tinted a little blue, but that's okay. Can't really see it on the paper. Now, because I added the water to the edge where the paint is, it is going to bleed in. And again, I don't care about that because happy accidents. That might make a really fun effect later. Okay, let's get back in. Let's add some more. I have the algae, but I'm going to mix it with this blue right here. Nah, I'm not digging that. Let's start that again. Let's add, I have to be really careful with this color because I don't have much left. All right, let's add this in. No pre-plan on what I'm doing. I'm just doing because I know I can't possibly in my head, nor do I want to know what's going to come and what I'm going to do. I have basic ideas of colors I want to use, but everything will just set the mood once I see it. Now I can add a little bit of the alcohol to there to give some movement. Now that I did that center one because I will want to make this some kind of an underwater flower or anemone, and that will be the center. So I do kind of have that in my head. I can let these edges dry, or I can just let everything seep together. So at this point, I'm not too concerned about what the paper is doing. This is, let's see, Turkish Sea. And I just kind of go with it. Whatever is happening, I work with it. And I call this the ugly stage because it doesn't really look like much. But I'm not concerned about that either because I just want it to be a mottled background that doesn't have too much pressure to be anything in particular. Let's just pick up a little bit of this. Okay, so it's not too much. Oh, that one made like a little heart. Okay. Let's get some more of my favorite blue. Oh my goodness, it's almost empty. Let's put that. Turkish sea. I'll put that right here. I like that color. Get back to the alcohol. And we're almost done. Let's get a little more of the algae, and we can work that from here. I can feel the paper starting to dry in this corner. And then let's go back to this blue right here. My favorite blue, just right here. Sure if that's, oh, that was my finger. Hey, that's fun. You can use your finger too. I like to use the alcohol to push these swatches of color that puddle, push them almost into dryness. Now we're going to before we do that, I want to take a little bit of color And let's see, we haven't used the green, which is 139. And just splatter that on. This does some fun things too. Doesn't look like much, but then later it will be underneath of the doodles that I do and create some interesting texture. Let's do that with a little bit of the yellow also. Or I call it yellow, but it's really green. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna come back and do a few final touches to the painting. You could hair dry it if you're really in a rush and impatient, but I like to let this air dry because all of these little drops of color that are gonna intermingling with each other, they can be really fabulous when they just have the time to do their thing. So I like to just let it dry. It will take quite a while to get these puddles to dry, but to me it's worth it. So let's see what we can do with this. Let's let this dry and we'll be back soon. Okay, it's nice and dry, and how you can tell that your paper is ready to work on is it has flattened out. There's no bumps and ripples. When you touch the paper, it doesn't feel cold or cool. That's how you can tell that the paper is dry. Basically the temperature, but also the ripples. Okay, so what I want to do now is to emphasize some of these lines and create, I will show you, and create little edges to emphasize the depth. So to me, it gives the impression that this is sitting above this, so there is layers. I'll use a smaller brush, a 6. You can even use something smaller. Just find what you have and see what's comfortable for you. I'm gonna start with this edge right here. I just wet my brush, and then I'm going to find a color that I think would look like it will blend and be like, create a depth, like here. This was like slightly darker version of what I was working on. So this color here, even this one right here is nice. Mix it a little bit. I like all my colors to mix on the palette. Okay, so I'm just going to, I'm going to just draw a little jagged line, a thin jagged line, and where there are bleeds, I will go into those bleeds. I don't want to go too far because I don't want it to dry on me. Then I rinse my brush, take off some of the water, that's too much, and rub into the edge to soften the edge. Now, you don't have to do this you can just get right to doodling. I like to take it a step further and make it look, I liked it to make it look a little more, have a little more depth. So I think I'll go same color, make that rough there. I'm gonna work fast. Rinse my brush. Now here it changes to like a green. So I'm going to pick up a slightly different color. And there's not really definitive spots here. I'm going to create them. Okay, wet my brush. I don't want to go too far. If I go too far, then it'll be way too dry to work on. I find that the hot press paper, which is what I'm using, absorbs or dries a lot faster. The paint doesn't spread as much, it sits on the surface and dries quicker, so I have to work quicker. Now this one has an interesting effect. It's going around the bubble I created. So I'm going to go with that. That's the thing. After, the reason I don't get too concerned about what I'm doing to create is because I feel that no matter what I'm given, it will stimulate my mind to see pictures in it and use those to my advantage. So this painting is truly intuitive, this style. I go with what I see, and maybe somebody else will see something different in the design, and that's what we want. So you would never create this exact design. This just is happy little things that just does what it does, and yours will be totally different, and that's good. Each one I do, I could never, at least I don't set out to try to make it any one thing. I just put paint down and I go with what I see. I use that to inform me on the next move I'm going to make. It's really a very meditative, happy way to create, because it removes the stress, which, hey, art should not be stressful. Art should be fun, art should be relaxing. I often get comments from people that they're so hard on themselves for perfection. This is a nice way to paint, to let that go. There is no right. What right is what you've done and what you've made. And you know, some paintings you'll like more than others, and that's okay too, but not necessarily that because that painting is better than the other painting. It's just maybe the experience you had helps you like it a little more. Sometimes while I paint, for some reason I feel better when I'm painting on one day to another, and it sticks out in my mind as a happy painting day. And then that leads me to maybe like the painting more, or maybe you just like the colors or the shapes that you were able to work with, and you enjoyed the doodles that you made. There's so many ways to make yourself happy with the art without beating yourself up. Just create and you will be happy. Remember when you were little and you would color and you didn't beat yourself up about it. You just colored with complete pure joy, with no preconceived notion of what you should be making. You just created for the joy of creating. And somewhere along the way, people lose that. Sometimes as I move my wet brush around, it creates more bleaching out, which, sometimes can be so lovely. But my goal here is to soften the edge that I'm putting down. And this area that I'm working on, doing this technique, sometimes takes a while to do, depending on how much I want to do. But I enjoy it. It's meditative for me. You can do as little or as much as you like. On this page, to me, there's a lot to do because I like to go around all of these to make them really stand out. So I'm going to show you another technique before I keep doing all of that, of what I do. So I like to sometimes fill these circles in. So what I'm going to do is this one, I'm going to do the circle with a color. And I'm thinking maybe this a dark blue. I'll put it on the edge of the palette so you can see it right there. Okay. But I don't necessarily want it to be ridiculously dark. So I'm just going to very lightly, a very thin wash, and just go around, give it a little color. I can add a little bit of the green to give it some depth and interest. I want it to be subtle. I like that right here, how it's kind of mottled. That's the effect I'm going for. And then I can add some water to soften edges and help that along. Remember, watercolor dries later than you put it down on the paper. What I think I'm going to do is go around the edge of this and highlight. So I'm going to use a little bit of a darker greenish color right here. Remember, go into the little edges, the bleeds. I'm going to switch hands so you can see what I'm doing. Fun fact, I am right-handed, but I seriously broke my wrist in 2004 and had tons of surgeries on said wrist. You can see the scars that I have from the surgeries, and I spent many months not being able to use my hand, and being as I'm right-handed, I had to move to use my left hand, and I was not going to not be creating, so I learned how to use my left hand. I can handwrite with my left hand now. I can paint with my left hand. I don't naturally start that way, but I could do it in, like, if I need to get to the other side. I trained my brain. It was probably a good 6 months. Yeah, I think it was 6 months of needing to use my other arm. So I got quite handy at doing everything left-handed. So we have more bubbles to go over. I like this bubble right here. I love the edge on that bubble. Let's take advantage of that. Let's just use the darker blue. Center there, you can kind of very faintly see a little blue speck. I think I'll make it a little tealy green, but I want it to be watered down. I don't want it to be too obvious. Let's just put a little, it's wet, so I'm going to drop some paint into it and let it bleed where it goes. So I did this side, and now I think I'm going to do this side, because I'm starting to see something that I can do with that, like later when I doodle. This will be the top part. The holes that you see will be below, and these parts will be below. And I achieve that by creating edges. And then we can go back down through here and connect to there. again, just using the colors that are already on my palette. If I can get anything across to you, it is the fact that please just, this technique builds on what happens naturally, not what you're forcing. So if you're a person that is really hard on yourself about your art, this is a good way to get over that. This is a good way to work and start to learn that sometimes what happens is better than anything you could have imagined. And it does take a long time. It requires some patience if you want to go around to all the edges. It does require patience. But if you wanted to just get right to the doodling, by all means, let this part go. Edge it with markers. I often find my markers. I move them out of the sun. I often use these Stabilo .88 to put in edges. They're fast. I love these pens. These are my favorite pens. They are just the workhorse of what I do. It has a tiny little tip, but I can also fill in large areas with them really beautifully. Like these were done with that pen, all of these were done with the pen. All the edges around this were all done with the pen, as was this. So a lot of pen work. The red was all pen. I love those pens so much. Maybe we'll do the back side of this one. I kind of see these as like rocks. I think I'm gonna go around this section right here. I don't know if you've snorkeled or scuba dived. I feel like this is like a rock wall that I've seen. And how about we do right here? So when I work, I just pick places that are speaking to me in the moment. I really don't have a plan. There's no plans in any of this. I think the only plan I do is maybe what size paper and colors that I start with. This one right here is very interesting. That I see a shape around the outside. And then there's this. I love like the little dots that have found their way, and they will be behind what I do. So I'm thinking I might just paint this centers, just this part and this part. To the side to kind of bleed in. Maybe put a drop of water in the center. This one I think I'll do the same. Just push into all the little bleed areas. And I have a little bit of gouache in white, and I'm going to use that almost as like a swirly color. I'm going to thin it down a little bit. And let that bleed in. I'll take that white gouache and then kind of just bring this more to the forefront. Not strongly. I don't want to do too much covering. Just so it's a little more apparent than it was. Very milky looking is what I'm after. Okay, we'll do the same thing right here. What I think I'm going to do this time is the gouache first around the outer edges, a watered down gouache around these parts, this teal in the center, and let it bleed. And we'll do that again in this spot right here. And let's see, what do we have left? This one might be pretty with like a teal behind it, like this. But not too apparent, not too strong, because I want it to have this, the feeling that this is behind this part. Let's drop a little bit of green in there. And we'll do the same there. And a little bit of blue right here. This right here is very stark to me. So let's make that the dark blue. This one here, I think I'm going to add the white, the milky white. I don't know if I had done something to it already, but it's pretty, it's pretty blah. If you put bigger blobs of thicker gouache, it gives it a swirly, milky effect. This teal to the center. And then I'm going to add a little white, possibly mixed with the green, so it's lighter and more opaque. Okie dokie, this one right there. Oh, tell me you have a dog without telling me you have a dog. Where did here it is. Dog hair always. I decided to make that yellow. Green. Why do I keep calling it yellow? It feels yellow to me. And then I'll put a little white around the edge. Almost done. I'm thinking I'm at the point where I could add pen now and do some fun things with pen. And I think I want to do around this one. It's not really showing up as anything. Let's get a little bit of color. And this is the last one I think I need to tackle. Let's pick this. just when you think you're done, you are not. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the darker blue and drop it right in the center and just let it bleed out. Do what it's going to do. And I think I'll do that with that right there. So let's make a wet circle. Just drop some color in. And then we'll do this here. It's too much water. I think I'm going to call this done. Let it dry out. Actually, I think I'm going to put a little more darker right there. And then the magic happens when we add the pen and ink. This is just the base to guide us and give us a little background so you can play with shapes and colors and create things. Okay, now that everything's dry, I took the tape off so I could maneuver the paper around the way I want it. But if you feel that maybe your lines are going to go over the edge and you want to have a crisp white surrounding, you can leave the tape on. I am probably going to trim this off anyway, so I wasn't too concerned. So now we're going to start with the inking. I usually pick one spot to start, something that jumps out at me, and then that gets the ball rolling. So if you feel stuck, just say, oh, what is the most obvious shape? And for me, that's this one right here. So what I'm going to do is use the Stabilo .88 fine pen. This one is number 22. I wanted something bold, but I didn't want to use black in this piece, so I just went with the darkest pen that I had. So I'm just going to try to make the organic shape. So I'm just going to go around the outside and leave some spaces. Like this was bleeding over. I decided that that would be in front of this, so I left it behind. I left a break to make this in front. And then I'll do something else different. And for this one, I feel like this is in front of that, so I'm going to give it the edge. And then I'm just going to go along and thicken the line. If you have a thicker pen, you don't have to do this. You can just make it with the thicker pen. But I like to give it some dimension. So I'm going to quickly just go around and thicken the line up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. And where I see it bubble out, I might exaggerate that a little bit and then fill it in. And where it comes in, exaggerate it in. And then here it dips in, so I'm going to exaggerate inward. Here we're going out, exaggerate it out, and just fill it in. going to go around the outside and make some fun little shapes, little hairs, if you will. They don't have to be straight lines. It's if I do lines that are wavy, then it gives some movement to the piece. Makes them look as if they're moving. Again, here I let this be in front, so in order to give it the look that it's behind, I started the line, stopped the line, and picked it back up again. At the bottom, you can give like a little bit of a triangle edge so it looks like it's growing from it. You can make your doodles as simple or as intricate as you like, because they're your doodles. You don't have to do what I'm doing here. You can follow your own background and see what it tells you to do. I'm just going to show you how to make some of these. If you practice them or use them in your own designs, it will help you start to create your own from your own imagination. And that's the goal, is to use your own imagination and not rely on what you see others do. Eventually you'll get to that point, if you just practice enough. And the practice, I mean, is practicing letting your imagination be right and be free. Your brain is like a muscle, and you have to use it. If you allow your imagination to run free and don't put restrictions on it and allow yourself to play, your brain will get stronger in that way. I also like to use the time that I'm drawing as my time, no distractions, even if it's just 5 minutes that you have while your pasta's boiling. That's kind of how I look at it. Sometimes I don't have hours to just sit here and draw. Sometimes I just have to grab a few minutes to myself when they come along. I suggest that. Just like reading. You don't sit down and read a book from start to finish. That's very rare. When it happens, it's amazing, but it's very rare. Same thing with your drawing. You're not going to have chances are you're not going to have time to just sit down and do something from start to finish. Allow yourself a few minutes here and a few minutes there. Okay, so the outside of that is done. And what I'm going to do is, within the same drawing, we have this shape here and this shape here. Kind of want to give it like the little nucleus and do something fun around it. This is awful pale around it here. So I think I'm going to go in with another color and maybe make some circles, or let's see, what color would I like to use? I think I'm going to use this Stabilo number 56. I'm just going to take the opportunity here to make some circles of varying sizes, interconnect them a little bit. Again, perfection does not have to be achieved here, but I'm going to stay within the lighter confines. So like squishy little circles. And this is good for people that are confident with their drawing, because it doesn't have to be perfect shapes. I encourage you not to make them perfect. No perfect circles. Okay, that was quick. Okay, here I have an Artistro extra fine tip 0.7 millimeters ink. It's number 234. It's kind of a bright green yellow, so I thought it would bring out these. Shake it up. And what I'm going to do is to just make a basic circle in the center. These are like an acrylic paint pen. The next thing is to just find another spot that is very obvious. I also like to start with the larger pieces and go smaller. So obvious and large, and then I fill in with the small. So we're going to draw the big picture and then fill in with all the tiny little details. So I thought this one right here is very obvious to me, that, you know, it has an obvious shape and it talks to me right away. Okay, and I'm going to use white. This is a Uniball, whoop, turn it over, Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen. I'm going to start from here and go to the edge. Do some various shapes, go around the circle. If the pen skips, I just fill it in. These pens aren't the best. I don't know what it is about the white gel pens, like to be testy. Just following the shape of that predefined color. Dots on the end to cap them off. I think personally that it is important that things go off the edge of the paper. When I was in art school, my teacher took me to task for that. And she said, why does your stuff go off the edge? She didn't like that. And in my opinion, when you're looking at something in the world, they go off the edge. You don't see the whole world in one viewpoint. So I feel like this is a snapshot of what your eyes see. So I think it's good. Go off the edge. Leave a little imagination of what's out there. Gives more to the story. Okay, now we'll move on. We have this shape here, and we have this shape right here. And I think I'll move over here and do this one. And my first thought process is, what color would I like to show this piece off? What would balance the piece? So we have a dark and we have a light. Sometimes what I do is I have a piece of paper to the side and I use it to get the pen started. You know, like if you have to shake it up and press, I do that. Or I use it to test colors. So what would it look like if I put pink with this yellowy green? Here's that yellowy green. That's interesting. I like the pink against the green. So I'll put that aside. I'll pick up the pink that I had already used. I'm going to try to move the same colors throughout the piece. I usually just pick my colors as I go along and put them right here so I don't get confused about what I've used in the piece and I'm not taking too many colors. Okay, now I think I'm just going to give it again an organic little amoeba shape. Leaving that underneath this because we'll do something with that. And again, I'm going to go around and strengthen the lines because I really do love to use these pens, and because they're fine point, I have to work with what I'm getting. Hey Stabilo, make these in bigger points if you don't already. None of the things I'm using today are sponsored. They're just my favorite products to use. What I think I'm going to do is go around underneath and mimic the line. I'm not going to make it as thick, but I will give it a little depth. Up against the edge here because I like how we made that very obvious, but I'm going to go on the outside of it. So I have a group here of 2, and I'm going to do a group here of 2, same thing. Remember earlier in the video when we were making the background and I had talked about the splatters I was putting down and how they will show through and give interest. That's what these will be. You'll start to see these fall behind things, kind of give your eye a place to go and say, oh wow, there's other things going on there. So let's do another set of 2. Follow the line around. This one, I think I'll go over. Give a little depth. I haven't haven't decided if I want to go over or under that. So we'll just come around here. And then let me give it a little thought. I think I'll go over that. Now I understand that you can't really follow along with what I'm doing because you don't recreate the exact same background. It's completely impossible the way the water moves and things. But just take these ideas, maybe put them on your own somewhere or make them work, move them around, change the shape. But the ideas are there. Let's take our white pen, but actually not this white pen. Let's take our Artistro pen, white, and let's make dots inside the ribbons of color. Okay, so now I'm going to work right here. I'm going to turn the paper around. And I thought that I would bring the pink back to this side. So I'm going to just make some squiggly lines, you know, that looks like the brain coral. And we'll put it behind the other one. Okay, and now I'm going to go thicken the lines up, make some more interest with each of them to make them more substantial. As you can see, this can be a very meditative process if you just sit quietly and relax and think of just the line you're drawing. Just be with your art. And that's how your art can become meditative, or your doodles or whatever. It's hard in today's life to put other things aside, but try, if you can, to just focus on the line and nothing but the line. Don't worry about anything else on the page. Just worry about what you're doing right here. And I wouldn't even, worry isn't even the right word. Just be with that line. Just think about that one part. And don't worry about what you're going to do here or there, unless you have an idea, but put that aside. You know, something may have sparked you and you'd be like, yes, I know what I'm going to put there. But don't think about that part till you get to that part. To make this area right here a little more defined. So I think I'm going to add another line off of this one. There. And then we will just make it thicker. And then I think that is going to create a border. That kind of makes it look like it's a piece of that coral, like a coral rock thing. Okay, and as I'm going along, shapes are jumping out at me. This one has now called me. And then this right here is definitely very obvious on what it is, or that it is a something. How about we pick that pink pen back up again? I'm really enjoying this pen. One time I was snorkeling in Antigua, and there was this huge bouldery rock in the water, and it looked like it was covered in Cheerios, literally Cheerios. So I'm going to try to think about trying to create that again and trying to give it roundness. So How to give this roundness will be make them bigger here. Let's make these nice and fat. Okay, so these here will be bigger, but the ones along the edge, to make them appear that they are going over the edge, we're just going to make them a different shape, like a squishier shape. Don't make all of them the same shape, or exactly the same, I should say, but pretty close. I'm going to stop here since there is a definitive line there that maybe this is behind something. And this does take time. It may appear that I do this very quickly, but as you can see, I'm doing it in real time right now, and it does take a little bit of time, and I think that's why I like it. I certainly work faster when I'm not talking and when I'm just doing, but when I'm explaining it, it does slow it down, but that's part of the beauty, is the slowing down. So this is just a group of circles, and a group of circles put together actually create something. When you're drawing or trying to draw, it's just a group of shapes. So if you want to draw a car, just think about the car as a rectangle, circles, circles, and then you can change the shape as you go along. Draw it in pencil, draw the rectangles out, the circles out, and then you can adjust the shapes of those rectangles and circles. But that's the base. Everything is just a shape. And I'm just going to keep going. I will continue this and you will see the finished product. I'm not going to drag you along for this. And then I will just skip to the finished shape with all these little circles in it. Now, when you get to the edge and you want to make it look like something is in, like it was behind something, don't continue to draw the circle. Just draw that and stop. We'll give it the appearance that it continues on. Okay, so I'm going to take this yellow number 85A Artistro extra fine tip, and I'm going to just go along and make some dots, putting them in what I call the seams between the circles. With the white pen, I'm going to go back here and draw the edge of the center. And I'm going to make it a thicker line. And let's just put some dots in the center. I think I'll draw some white in the centers of this pink. pressed it up a little bit. Okay, now we have to find our next focus. I see these as holes in a rock. So this space right here, I want to make it look like something is coming out from behind of this rocky thing. I think I'm going to use this Sparkle Pop blue. And again, make some circles. That kind of come to a point. Take a darker pen and make some tendrils that come out. And let's make those lines much thicker and come to a point at the end. I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes before I go over it with the white. Gentle touch with the gel pen to allow it, like if you press too hard, you really just fight it. It kind of comes out in a smoother flow when you're very light with your touch. Let's add some balls to the tops of some of these. glassy things to come out of. Okay, so what I'm going to do is draw some grassy shapes. And then we're going to make them fatter and color them in. So these pens, even though you can color, sometimes when you color with a finer tip, it leaves streaks. These pens are so nice, they don't leave any streaks, and I think that's why I like them so much. I'm not sure how many colors they have in their line. I'm going to edge this with, oh, I don't know if I told you the color. This was the Stabilo .88 number 54 for that orangey kind of color. And I think I'm going to try to go over the edges to give a little pop of color in pink. It's a Cricut opaque gel pen, 1 millimeter pink. I love Cricut's pens. They are absolutely amazing. The colors are so pretty. add some tendrils in just this pink alone. Color it in. These Cricut pens come in a package. Let me see which other ones I have. It has an orange, a green, and I believe there's a blue. It comes in a package of 4. There might be a white too. I think I don't see it here, but I believe that there's a white in the package. I could be wrong. These are really cool. I love the Cricut pens. The best. Again, not sponsored, just sharing with you my favorite supplies. Now we'll take it back to the white Artistro and let's just put some dots. It's going to pick up some of the color underneath, and I actually want that to happen. I don't want it to be a brilliant white. And I'm just going to add a little dot at the base of each of those faded away circles or ovals. Let's draw another one of these right here, a smaller one. Again, let's get the orange out. can do another one sneaking out from over here. So while this dries, let's have another one. We can have it come from this one and kind of make it so to draw them, you go draw the one line and then draw the line next to it. So the first line gives the shape and the second line gives the depth. And you can always smooth it out and add to it after it's drawn. So now I'm going to draw the line next to it, make some of them fatter, and make it come closer together in spots. You can make one that comes out from here and hides behind, like that. To make it look like it's going somewhere behind it. Not everything needs to be next to each other, but having things behind and around makes it look more natural. Let's go with the pink pen again and put the edges, the tips. Up here, do the tips. And then we will again get our white Artista pen and let's do the little ovals. This is white, but it is going to fade in. Come up here and do the same thing. We're going to pull out this pen. Another Stabilo, number 32. And I'm just going to make some shell-like things over here. small one. I think I will build another thing like this, combination of these. I'll make the nucleus area. Let's try this one. This is number 13. We'll let that little dot be on top, so I went behind it with the edge. And then I'll draw the edge. So again, this is going to be sitting behind other things. And now we'll draw our lines to the edge. These can be thinner. Stopping at this shape, which I'll do something with later, and that will be on the top. Follow the natural curve of the anemone. Again, not drawing into that little splatter, because we'll do something with that, or we'll just leave it where it is but make it prominent. Let's make finishing circles. This one won't really show up, and then we can put some dots on some of them. Maybe we can put a white dot to make them stand out a little more. So let's take our Artistra white. Let's put a band right in here. Oop, it's liking to really bleed out. To go carefully with this one because there's a lot of ink pouring out of it. Put a circle here and a circle here. There. This tiny little thing right here, I'm going to quickly do something to it, or maybe the green. Can do that same thing right there, but let's use a slightly different pen. to give it like a pillow effect. And then I'll go around the circle to connect all of the lines in. And I think I'll soften their attachments with little arcs, tiny little arcs. This one has a little white dot in the center. I think I'll just go with that. And then what I'm going to do to soften it a little bit is take my finger and just do that. Kind of blow a little bit and it should fade out. I like that effect. I think I'll do that over here. Right there. This is another Cricut pen, but it's glittery. It's pink. It's from the Glitter Gel Pen collection. And that has in it don't know. There's a whole bunch in this collection. I believe this is how many there are. These are so, oh, here's another one. They're really so nice to work with. The Cricut gel pens are really lovely. Oh, there was this one too. Let's take that here and just put some pink glitter dots. Okay, so now I'm looking at this and I'm not especially loving that part. So I'm going to come over and add glittery little circles added over it. Again, I'm using the Cricut glitter pink. This might soften it up a little bit. So I think I'm going to carry this dark color here over to this side for balance. So I'm just going to put a whole bunch of little tiny dots in here. I don't want to compete with that texture that I have going on. And then I'm just going to add some simple shapes here. And put some buds on the tips. And that carried that darkness to this side. kind of want to balance the colors a little bit. We had some pink here and the hot pink throughout. We have a white and a white. I'm going to do the same kind of thing on this little one with this green pen, the number 13. Lots of little dots. And here, I'm just going to draw some shapes leaning out, lines leading out. I'd like to weave like a ribbon through. We could start here, maybe carry it like that. Through that hole and that hole. There. And then we're going to make like a ribbon. Color them in. Sometimes I like I made this ribbon go through holes in a different painting recently, and I liked it so much, so it found its way into this one too. Sometimes I repeat things that I do, things that I've decided that were cute or I enjoyed in the painting. So you'll see some things in each little world that are repetitive, and I guess that's okay because, you know, you go to one coral reef and you see a few things and you may see something new, and then you'll go to a different spot and see maybe one thing similar and new things, or several things that are similar, or the actual fish or same coral. And let's pull it down here. Let's build on this and put them here. Use the teal green, the number 13. And then let's find that blue sparkle pen. This one needs a very light touch because the gel that comes out of it is very thick and abundant. So the Sparkle Pop pens, the Pentel Sparkle Pop, the gel is really amazing. You don't have to fight for this one. Let's use that same Sparkle Pop and we can do this. Let's use the white uni ball and add some simple dots. Go in some of these holes here with the Artistro and make these little like spouts of bubbles. And let's make some little rock shapes. Just going to draw a circle around this, and I'll fix it with my thickening. So if I draw a dashed line around the shape, and then I can do a half circle on each one of those. And fill them in. And then put some dots in the center. To take this pen and edge this right here to make it sparkle a little bit. And then take my uni ball, because it's a little thinner than the Artistro pen, and let's just draw some lines. Varying thicknesses and not perfectly straight. Some squiggle lines, again varying shapes very lightly because I don't want it to be too uniform. You should do something here, but maybe a little bigger. Let's go around the edges with white in circles. And then let's take this blue, the number 13, and let's just draw. And color them in. It will be subtle and not too overpowering for the corner. And it's going to be behind all of this, so I'm not going to draw over what I've already drawn. I'm going to stop at the edges of everything to give it the appearance that it is behind. Let's go back over here to continue the shape so I can see it. And if it helps, you can draw like what you think will be the edges. And then we can always refine them later if we want them to be longer. Err on the side of caution and make them shorter, because you can always add. It's hard to take away. Continue all the way around the spoke. the shapes and coloring them in, letting everything else be in the front. So stop the line short of anything you've already drawn. Except these little dots, I think I'm going to leave them half seen. They'll blend through also through the ink, but through the pen work. I think I'm going to make these a little longer. Let's take this and put some dots at the end. This will help define the edge. And then in the center, this corner is filled in nicely. We need something here. Let's put some more of these rocks down here. sparkle blue. This pen, I want this to be very subtle, not really showing up too much, just something in the background. So that is kind of going to blend in. And let's add like little plant life. Just leave it leaves on the outside. And then eventually there'll be a cross, and then make them dip down a little bit for some personality. And we'll do the same here. We'll make them up a little bit. I'll turn it this way so it's easier to manage. Up a little bit, up a little bit. Now we can make them start to go across. Do 2 rows where they're pretty across, and then start to dip them down. I wouldn't try to compete on that side because they're close. Yeah, I won't see that. Some falling leaves. And let's draw some plant life coming out of some of these holes. Little crevices. Some tiny plant life coming here. Here could use some brightening. So let's use the white and just do some little peaks of color coming through. And right here, we'll just do little white dots. And right here, we can just do a peak of just little touches now to make everything brighter. This one needs a little something. This looks like it needs So now I'm just going around adding little touches. Most everything is filled in. Right here could use a little pop of color. The sparkle pen. Sparkle right on the end. Oh, no, can't even see the number anymore. There we go. 342A. And I will just go around and put, I call them little croissants. Don't make them all the same. And some of them smaller, some of them bigger. They kind of will blend in with the background. Thank you so much for joining me in today's tutorial. I hope you learned a lot and found it helpful. A big shout out to my members for supporting this channel. I truly appreciate you all. Stay tuned because I've got plenty more tutorials coming your way.